Here are the roses. They came in the envelope, just a padded envelope, and these are wrapped in very wet paper towels. They were definitely wrapped really tight, so they were hard to get off. I had to use the scissors. Yeah, getting them off isn't easy. And they're pretty bunched up together, so I'm having to kind of pull them apart. But as you can see, most of them came in pretty decent condition. Some, don't look too happy there, like that one doesn't look very happy. And some of the stems are much larger than the others. And I had ordered, I think they came 6 cuttings, 6 10-inch cuttings. And there are 9 of them instead of 6. And I think that she gave me 9 because, like I said, some of them look a little sad, like they didn't travel very well, and they're actually smaller. So that, played a part, I think, in why I got 9 cuttings instead of just the 6. I'm going to use my cutters to get the extra leaves off. So I'm going to start at the bottom and just kind of start clipping away so that I leave a good amount of stem at the bottom. But I don't want to cut it completely off because that's where the roots and the shoots are supposed to come out. And then I'm going to take some of the top off because I don't really want all of that. And again, you don't want too many leaves. And I know that some people just keep the stem and no leaves, but I personally like some of the leaves. And, I'm saying that like I know what I'm talking about because I really don't. But like here, I am just kind of giving it a fresh cut because some of them look a little, I don't know, hard and covered up a little bit. And then I'm going to what they call wound the ends by just scraping off some of the outer bark or outer skin or however you want to look at it. And then I'm going to stick it in some water so it can start soaking up some water. Kind of know what I'm doing, but I don't really know what I'm doing. But here I'm just cutting off the old kind of bad looking parts of the leaves that look kind of dried up and brown, so that they're not, I don't know, trying to take some of the nutrients for the stem that could be going elsewhere, which I think is important. Now here is again where I'm keeping as much as I can, but on some of these ones that don't look very good at all, and see here you can see again I'm going to make a fresh cut to get that black off and get a fresh opening there and then wound the ends. But what I was going to say is I have tried this many times throughout the years with different plants. And, well, I guess I won't say just plants, but bushes and trees in my yard. And I have had, I'm going to say, really no luck. Sometimes I have found, like with honeysuckle or whatever, I might get it to start looking like maybe it's going to root, but then it just doesn't. And the rooting powder that I was using was what I would call maybe a 1, which is like a 10% rooting powder. And so with these roses, because I wanted to make sure that I did the best that I could to have them root, because I really want these roses. So I did some more research, and what I found out is there really is a difference. Now I know I'm in Washington State, and I had a terrible time finding rooting powder that was higher than 10%, which is like a level 1. If you look at the Hormix as a brand that's very common on Amazon and is often used. But I have that, and like I said, it just didn't really work for me. So I was doing, like I said, the research and found out that for these kind of plants, you really need, for roses, especially, at least a 3, which is about 30%. And Amazon won't ship any hormones to the state of Washington. So it kind of put me in a bind. Now, what I could try to do is see if I can go directly to some of these websites other than Amazon, like maybe the direct manufacturer, and see if I could get them to ship it to me, but I'm not really sure. But I did go to Northwest Seed and Pet and I found Clonex, which it looks to me, if you do a little bit of research on Clonex, that it is actually a better, more safe, I guess I want to say, hormone for cuttings. And so I purchased that. Now at Northwest Seed and Pet, it was like $27 for this really small jar of hormone, and I will show you that when I get to the hormone. I know I'm kind of doing a voiceover because the noise was so bad outside. The neighbors and then the guy next door with his really loud music. So yeah, I don't like to do voiceovers. I'm not very good at it. I'd rather just kind of fumble my way through doing it live and just deal with the sound. So anyway, I'm still making the cuttings, and then I will get back to the part where start using the hormone. There's the potential I cut off too much of, I don't know, the leaves. We'll see, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, I kind of talk like I know what I'm doing. I've done a lot of research, but when it comes right down to it, I mean, and it really hurt me in a way to cut all those leaves off. But, I just think it was a necessary evil, so to speak. So, anyway. Okay, so I am done finally with my little, what's left of my cuttings. And here is the pots that I'm using, which are basically I'm refurbishing the pots that I had purchased roses from Lowe's previously in. They were some beautiful pinata climbing roses, which I wanted along my fence. In more ways than one, I wanted it to also to kind of dissuade people who wanted to climb over the fence and get into our yard and try to steal things, which happens more times where I live than anybody wants to think about. But here's the Clonex, and as you can see, it's $26.99. I thought it was ridiculous, and it is the 0.31%, I think, on the hormone. But just make sure you read it and follow the directions that it tells you. And you can look on Amazon. I'll put a link up so that you can find it and look and see if it's something that you want to maybe use yourself. Maybe you can get it in your state where I couldn't get mine. So I'm poking holes in the potting soil, which is a mixture of perlite and peat moss, and then a seed starting cutting kind of mix. And I mixed it in just a regular, I don't know, it was a Sterilite, I think, plastic bin. And some of it I got mixed up better than others, that's for sure. And I'm just being careful opening this up because I don't want it everywhere. And this is much better than the powder, which, I don't have to worry now about breathing the powder in. I mean, I think I was a little paranoid before when I was using the powder. Naturally, you can see they could have made that container way easier to get that lid off and have less of a chance of getting it where you didn't want it. But the powder, you just, like I said, you don't want to breathe it in, and it don't want it to kind of scatter everywhere. Now I'm going to dip my cutting into the bottle directly, and you're not supposed to do that. And I guess, if I remember right, the Clonex website said that the reason for that is eventually that cloning powder will, of course, get contaminated, which I'm doing, yeah. But it will also thin out and get very watery, and then it won't stick to the plants like you're supposed to. So they recommend putting a little bit in maybe a shot glass or something like that, And next time I will for sure do that. But for right now, this is what I chose to do because I just am a little paranoid about the hormone. So I have finished the 6 pots, and those last 3 really small cuttings I decided to just put in one pot. They would be pretty easy to kind of separate, especially in this soil if the roots grow. I guess I should be more positive and say when the roots grow. This is something I haven't done either with all of the times that I have did the cuttings, and that is try to recreate a greenhouse type of effect. And maybe that's part of the reason why maybe I never had as good a luck too, who knows. But everything that I read, said to try to create that. And so as you can see, I'm trying to stick it inside, and that just isn't going to work. So I put it on the outside, and it does make them a little loose, which, probably is good too, because then they get air. And I think here they are all finished, and I will probably have to put some sticks to make sure I hold the plastic off of the leaves. And then this is the mix that I used. I wanted to talk just a minute about the Peggy Martin climbing rose bush. I'm not going to remember verbatim what I've read or what I have heard about this particular bush, but I'm going to explain to you about it so that you know why I really wanted to have this bush. So the bush is named after a woman named Peggy Martin who lived in Louisiana. She had been an avid gardener, and then when Hurricane Katrina hit, she had to evacuate. Now, the story goes, from what I remember, and you can look up Peggy Martin Rose if you have any more questions or you're just curious about the rose bush, but originally this particular bush had been a cutting that she had received from a friend. Her entire garden area, for like 2 weeks, it had been under at least 20 feet of seawater. Of course, as we all know, salt water would pretty much just destroy most plants. And she was able to finally go back to her home. Of course, all of her garden had been destroyed except for 2 plants. And I don't remember the name of the other plant, but this particular rose bush had survived, at least a part of it. And so I think, if I remember right, she had gotten together with a professor at a university, and they did what they could to try to propagate this one bush because it had survived Hurricane Katrina. And from that particular project has come all of these other rose bushes that have come from cuttings from this plant. And that is why I had to have this particular plant, because the story behind it, and besides that, the rose is just a beautiful bush. But because they didn't know the name of the bush, it was named after her, Peggy Martin. If you're interested in this bush, I will make sure that I put the link that I got it from, which was just eBay. I will put that link below. Thanks for watching. Okay, so I'm going to apologize for my extremely messy table, but I'm going to give you a quick update on these plants. And over here, I just planted my new bare root Joseph's coat bushes. Here's one, and then over here is one. This is one piece that broke off. I kind of doubt it's going to grow, but who knows. So I just, well, actually it broke off I guess, in transit because it was broken when I got it. So I just went ahead and kind of scraped it at the bottom and dipped it into the hormone root and then stuck it in this little container. We'll see what happens. And then I put that plastic bag on top of it. Over here is the update on my roses from eBay, which are the Peggy Martin roses. There were a few that, there were a few that rotted out, like this one. So I just pulled it out. And then over here, I think I have some that are still a little iffy. I'm going to head and open up the plastic so that you can see. And I know I don't have my mic, but I think this is a new leaf. I do believe it might be a new leaf, but they're still green, and that's a good sign. Here might be a new shoot. Maybe. Some new green coming on it. Sorry, my dogs are barking. Somebody's walking in the alley. And so over here, these two, I don't think are going to make it. I think they're both probably dead. It looked, it looked a little bit green a few days ago. But I think, yeah, see, this one's breaking off. So I think these two are not going to make it. So I think I pulled out 3 the other day, and then these 2. But like I said, this one looks pretty good. This one is still green, but it's brown on the top. So I'm going to snip that off really quick, just to see if I can give it a clean cut. So I'm going to take it to right above here just to see. So that's where I clipped it off. We'll see if it'll continue to stay green on the bottom. This one is another one that I think looks pretty good. I don't like that top very much. I'm not sure. This one here might be a new shoot. It's still green. Not a lot of activity other than that. This last one also is green still. I don't know if there's any new activity on this one either. I don't think so. But the fact that they're still green is promising. So I might get 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 9 cuttings, which is, I don't know, almost half. So maybe that's not bad. We'll see what happens. Keep you updated. So it's been about 2 weeks. I wanted to show you this really quick, if you can kind of see it. A squirrel has been digging in this one and eating my little last year's lilac bush seeds. So far I had only 1 that came up, and we'll see if I can protect this from the squirrels a little bit more, or mice, or whatever was eating on it. It's pretty damp. I had it covered, so I'm going to kind of leave it open to get some air. This is the name of the climbing rose that I put on the other side of the fence, which I will show you. I know the weeds and the grass are pretty bad, but this was the one I was talking about, the pinata rose, which are beginning to take off. I know this lavender doesn't look too great. I know I need to continue to pull weeds. It's bad. I got a bad back, and so it's really hard. But this is a start. They're doing pretty well. This one's already beginning to climb the fence.